Hello there everyone, welcome back. It's TIJ or Toby and welcome to the 5th episode of the FM18 team, guys. Today it's the turn of Premier League club Watford, who obviously finished 17th in the Premier League last year, so we're quite lucky to survive. But this year we've got the new manager, Marco Silva. But of course, if you take him over in Football Manager, you will be the manager, not Marco Silva. That will leave him unemployed and the suitor of many clubs as a fantastic manager with Watford at the moment. Seems to be a real good rising star in the Premier League. But enough about Marco Silva and more on the Premier League team that is Watford. If you've not watched any of my team guides so far, I'd recommend you go and do that. I just give some points on the dynamics, team reports, tactics, and the players you should go about signing and maybe selling from the club. So let's get straight into Watford today, and let's go straight to the dynamics with a pretty worrying match cohesion stat when you start. With a very poor match cohesion. I've done nothing. This is a vanilla save with Watford, and this is really bad. The current players are some way short of operating as a unit. Mental state's disappointing, and there's issues with vision and reactions. I don't quite know what's happening there. The social groups seem quite similar. There's quite a big core social group and a little secondary social groups, and the hierarchy goes as follows. Troy Deeney is the captain, and so is the team leader, as well as Aurelio Gomez. But the trouble is, Aurelio Gomez is getting on quite a bit, meaning that you'll only have one team leader in Troy Deeney if A, you try and sell him, or B, he does retire of his own accord. In terms of happiness, players are quite happy, but that's just generally alright. Anyway, right, let's go on to players we need to sign, and probably players that I would recommend to sign. There's quite a weak depth in terms of left backs, but also for goalkeepers. There's only one goalkeeper they've signed, I believe, on loan from Udinese. On loan, so really you need someone who's long term, and hence why I've suggested Ben Hamer from Leicester. English goalkeeper, backup of course for, what's his name? Kasper Schmeichel, of course. I forgot what his name is then. And of course for Leicester they've got Kasper Schmeichel, they've got Jakubovic as well. So Ben Hamer being third choice, I'm sure Leicester would be quite happy to let you have him. And with decent aerial reach and, you know, all the goalkeeper tactics, all the goalkeeper stats you need to be successful with Aurelio Gomez. Let's compare him to Aurelio Gomez. He's got better distribution, similar to aerials, not as good eccentricity, can't say it, but fair enough, you know what I mean. Better communication, similar mentals, lower speed, lower physicals, lower shot stopping, and at the end of the day, Ben Hamer's only going to be a backup like he is at Leicester, and he seems quite a low wage option. So maybe not as a successor to Aurelio Gomez, but as a backup option, Ben Hamer would be really good in the goalkeeper front. I wouldn't cost you too much. With only 8 million on the transfer budget, it's going to be quite tricky to get players. Hence why I've suggested some quite cheap players here that you might think aren't the best, but unfortunately you're not going to be able to buy too much with Watford being really active in the transfer window this season. The next player we're going to suggest is on the left-back position, and this one could be quite a weird one, with Kieran Richardson, a player you probably all heard of before, playing for Cardiff, Villa, Sunderland, most importantly probably Manchester United back in the day, and Sunderland of course. Well, the problem with Kieran Richardson of course is getting on a bit, but experience is definitely needed in this Watford side. He can play naturally as a left defender or a left midfielder. If we compare him to one of the left-backs we've got, let's have a look at the left-backs. We've got Miguel Britos. If you compare him to Miguel Britos, obviously his stats aren't going to compare quite so brilliantly, but his vision, speed, attacking and technical stats are quite good. His aerial stats certainly don't compare. But Kieran Richardson, only a year older, and he seems quite a decent player, and obviously his wage doesn't be too much, and I just think he's a good player for experience to add to the side. And hopefully with good mental stats, as you can see, good aggression, good decisions, his concentration isn't so brilliant, but his positioning, teamwork and work rate are certainly competent. And for a player that would be a backup, and for a free transfer as well, it certainly wouldn't harm the transfer budget. Another player that you could have is Brad Smith, who plays for Liverpool, so I'm quite partial to Brad Smith. I think he's a decent player. He's on the transfer list when you start the game for 2.9 million, so quite a cheap player. £25,000 a week as well, for not too much in terms of wages, and he's pretty much a natural on the left-back positions. If we compare him again to Miguel Britos, I'm sure he'd probably be quite comparable. As you can see, his aerial stats aren't quite so good, but his speed is really good, and that's quite important if he wants to play wing-backs or attacking full-backs. His physicals, defending, mental stats, apart from the aerial seems quite good actually on Miguel Britos. If you can find someone with comparable aerial stats, who's quite cheap with comparable stats in all of the positions, let me know, folks. I'm really interested to see about that. But yeah, Brad Smith, a decent option on that left-back position, and he's quite versatile, can play on the right, and he's only young as well, so can be adapted to play in any of those positions shown on screen, and seems like quite a decent player. The next player we could go for is Stuart Downing, quite an older player, similar age to Kieran Richardson, but with a lack of depth on the wings. You've only got 5 players that you can use on the wings. There we go, 5 players on each wing. Obviously with Andre Gray being one of them, he'd probably play as a striker. And the same goes to Tom Cleverley, who's probably going to be a central attacking midfielder, it looks like. You need probably some more depth on the wings. The first player, of course, being then Stuart Downing. He's a championship player, of course, got relegated with Middlesbrough last year. Shouldn't be too expensive, and he's very, very versatile. Can play as a right midfielder and a left midfielder, and all across the attacking midfield. Got decent pace still for his age. His workout is very good. Teamwork's good. As you can see, all his mental stats are pretty good, apart from bravery and aggression. But, you know, you're not going to be perfect at 32 years old. Of course, 35 England caps. I did not realise that. That's quite astonishing. But valued at £4.5 million, so that should be probably the most you should sign him for. But I reckon probably for about 4 million, 3 or 4 million, he'd be a good signing for you. As well as Nathan Byrne. Now, Nathan Byrne is someone I've heard of before. I did a Wolves save on FM18, and he was tremendous in the Premier League. He can play all along the right and all across the left. Of course, not with brilliance all across the right and left. And only as a League One player, he might not be the best player in the world. But 26, and he seems like a decent option. If you compare him, let's have a look at one of our players on the wing. Let's go with Andre Gray as an example. His defending stat is a lot better, of course, can play as a right back as well, so that will help you out in that position. His technicals, visions and speed are actually better than Andre Gray, but physicals, mentals and aerials and attacking aren't quite as comparable. But as a League One player and maybe a backup, obviously, for those wing positions, he'd be a really, really good player, and very cheap for you as well. 725,000 he is valued at, and as a maximum, I'd say 2 million would be the maximum. And as you can see, work rate, pace, acceleration and natural fitness being some of his best stats, including as well as dribbling, technique, tackling and passing. So that's really it for your transfers. If you've got any more transfer suggestions, folks, let me know down in the comments. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. And for the other players watching this video, it'd be very interesting for them to hear, I'm sure, in the comments what players you should sign. And also, if there's a comment you like of a player, not maybe because it's funny, but seriously, because you like the player that they want to sign, make sure to leave a like on that comment. That boosts their comments in the comment rankings, meaning that it's more likely for you to see some players that you might be able to sign. Because, of course, you shouldn't take these players as gospel, because I'm only suggesting some players that I found very quickly on the transfer market. If you look at the team report, obviously transfer budget isn't brilliant, as well as first touch, patch and aggression. And I've tried to find some players who do fit the bill for some of those stats, but it is very tricky to find some of those players with only 8 million left in the transfer budget. So if you look at the squad depth, obviously striker is one of those positions who's quite weak, as well as attacking midfield and left back, as well as goalkeeper. But for central defenders and central midfielders, they are fairly sorted, and for attacking midfielders as well, really. Maybe want to look at buying another attacking midfielder, but with Watford being quite overpowered on FM18, you won't have to worry about that whatsoever, I don't think. They've got some quite good young players as well, with, if we go on the potential, Hernandez, Matthews, Penarada and Pereira. They've got quite a lot of good young players. They've got Isaac Success, who's quite a notable player. That's the only one I recognise out of them all. He's already valued at 12.5 million, so actually could come into that first team squad. I'm surprised he's not into that first team squad. I would maybe put him into that first team squad quite quickly. There's some other good players here. We've got a lot of good players with a lot of good potential. There's a lot of them out on loan at the moment, so as you obviously can see those players. And if you start a sale, I'm sure you can go through each of these players and choose which ones to put into your squad. You've got a Kaka as well you can put into the squad. You've got Jerome Sinclair, who's a former Liverpool player, and no one else really who stands out in terms of under 18s. We've got a few that have got good potentials. Yaden Bennett, Ben Tricker, Michael Mullins, some really good English players. And if not being used in the squad, you can also sell them off for a decent amount. Now, with Watford, I'm going to do this live because I usually do this a bit later and then bring it back in. But I'd probably play a 4-2-2. We want to play it the proper way, not the rubbish, narrow way. But I'd probably have Gray and Deeney as the strikers. And obviously got Gomez in goal, that's fairly obvious. Gray and Troy Deeney up front, I would probably say. Good, solid pair. And then you want to just arrange your squad however you want to. Let's go on quick pick for the other players. That's the one that Sousa, the assistant manager, suggests. That looks like quite a good squad. Chalobah, Hughes, Cleverley, Carrillo. Apparently he wants Richarlison to play instead of Deeney. Of course, Deeney's got an injury at the moment. Richarlison looks like a good player, but let's be honest, he's not really a natural striker. Is there any other natural strikers here? You can sort this out when you go into the game anyway. But that looks like a solid squad, does Watford. And really, I would probably aspire. What have they put on here for what Watford should aspire to? Mid-table, that's probably fair enough. Quite an established Premier League club now, and you should be able to do some decent work with them. So that's really it, to be honest, for the Watford team guide. Not really much more to report. They've got some good youth prospects, not much in the transfer budget. Obviously, if you've got any players, let me know down in the comments if you like any look and of any players that obviously I've included or any that anybody else might include. They've got some really good leadership figures at the club. With Gomez retiring in the near future, you might want to look to replace him with another leadership figure. And let me know, folks, how you get on in your Watford saves. Very interesting to hear how they get on. If you've got a YouTube save, link it down in the comments. I'll be sure to have a look at it and even give it a shout out if it's good. How generous am I? But anyway, that's it for the team guide episode today. If you've enjoyed, mate, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you're new. I've been TIJ, and I'll see you tomorrow for another team guide. Thank you for your support so far on FM18, guys. And I'll see you tomorrow in another 24 hours at 6 PM, as always, for the FM team guides. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.